Melanie believed she was content with her boyfriend. They shared abundant time together, and their wedding arrangements were well underway. However, just before the ceremony, Melanie began to observe peculiar behavior from her partner. Swiftly, she discerned his true intentions, and as she noticed a telling detail during the proceedings, their relationship reached its conclusion. Melanie and Stellan spent a lot of time together, and she couldn't imagine a better boyfriend. They had no children yet, but after 4 years together, it was time for a beautiful wedding. The two lovers were going to get married, and the idea of having their own family started to develop. But a few months before the ceremony took place, Stellan started behaving more and more strangely. And why is it heartbreaking? Stellan kept coming home late from work, and we're not talking about a few hours of overtime here. No, Stellan sometimes stayed out until midnight. He would often come home exhausted and had absolutely no attention for Melanie whatsoever. Strange. Melanie soon began to doubt the stories her boyfriend told her. Every time Stellan told her that he was deep diving into the company numbers, he was working with his colleague Clark, and that it was probably going to be a late one. However, Stellan did not know that Melanie also had Clark's number, and when she called his colleague, he told her that he had just gone home at 5 p.m. that day. There were holes in her fiance's story, and Melanie did not trust it one bit. Every Tuesday night, Melanie and Stellan had a planned evening together. It was the highlight of her week. They were always busy, but this was their private time. They would then go do something fun together. But this night turned out differently than expected. Stellan received a mysterious phone call at 8:15 p.m. He had to come to the office immediately. He told his girlfriend date night was officially canceled. That pissed Melanie off, but an emergency at work can happen. But then she didn't know yet that he had very different plans. As she walked back to the kitchen halfway through the film for a second glass of wine, she suddenly saw something standing in the corner of the room. It was her boyfriend's work bag, and the bag contained all his office stuff. He would never go to the office without this bag, she thought. She tried to call him, but Stellan simply did not answer his phone. Eventually, she went to bed frustrated. But then she suddenly heard the door at 3 a.m. It was Stellan trying to sneak into the house. He's sleeping on the couch, Melanie thought, and that's exactly what he did. The next morning, Melanie was walking down the stairs when she saw her boyfriend lying there on the sofa. At first, she wanted to confront him, but just before she tried to shake him awake, she suddenly smelled something. What is that smell? It smells like women's perfume, but the intensity and foulness of it were just horrible. At that point, she decided she didn't want to confront him. Melanie couldn't take it anymore. She was not going to wait any longer and decided to investigate these strange occurrences on her own. One night, when she couldn't sleep, it was the first time in days that her boyfriend was sleeping in the same bed as she was. When, in the middle of the night, his phone received a text message, her hand quickly reached for his bedside table. If he woke up from the vibration, she had lost her chance. But she was quick, and she lifted the phone without him ever noticing. She unlocked his phone and read the message. It was from a woman called Sophie, a name that was unfamiliar to Melanie. Seeing that she had sent her fiancé a message before, she started reading further. The conversation started about 3 months ago. It was indeed a colleague, and she was new to the business. When Melanie read the messages, everything became clear. And when she read, "Hey baby, is your wife already asleep? If so, then come over here quickly," she knew enough. Her husband was cheating on her with a colleague, the bastard. They were supposed to get married in a few weeks. How could he do this to her? She decided to come up with a plan that her future ex-boyfriend would not soon forget. She was the first to tell her friends about her boyfriend's cheating. "I would dump him immediately and cancel the wedding," they all shouted. But Melanie wanted none of it. She had a much better plan in mind. "The wedding must and will go ahead, but not because I love him. He will pay. And this is how." She walked over to her friends and whispered something in their ears. It was the big day of the wedding, and it looked to be a great party, at least so it seemed to the visiting guests and of course to her husband-to-be Stellan, because that was exactly Melanie's plan. She wanted everybody to be in the dark. The guests were already sitting in the garden, waiting for her to walk down the aisle. But first, she had to tell her father about the plan. Now he too was in on the plot. "Let the show begin," she said with full confidence. Stellan didn't notice anything. He had been outside for a while, laughing with his friends who were telling prepared jokes about him. The pastor held a microphone in front of Stellan's mouth, and it was now up to him to tell an interesting story for all the people present. He first started by thanking everyone attending this joyful day and told everyone how beautiful his almost wife looked. Ha! His almost wife. If only he knew, Melanie thought, but as he made his speech, which was mostly about himself, like everything in their relationship always was, Melanie suddenly smelled something. She followed her nose, and then once again smelled that cheap perfume smell that had been clinging to her friend for months now. She tried to convince herself that it wasn't that bad, but it was. She turned around and then saw this terrible sight. The smell was very clearly coming from Stellan's colleague, who had stepped forward a little irritated. That horrible human being does have guts to suddenly step forward like that, Melanie thought. She pinched her nose together momentarily, avoiding that disrespectful smell that haunted her dreams. But then she saw the following. Beneath a drag and a bunch of flowers, she saw that the woman was holding her phone. She was typing something, and a few seconds later, she heard Stellan's phone buzzing in his pocket. Melanie was furious, and now seized her moment to make a complete fool of him. Indeed, it was her moment to speak, and she left no seconds unused. The microphone was snatched from the pastor's hands, and Melanie grabbed her phone. For what Stellan did not know was that Melanie had secretly made a copy of his SIM card and phone details. Every time he received a call or a message, she too received it on her device. She knew about all the dirty games and would now use them to burn Stellan and his colleague to the ground. She opened her phone, and then all of her hard work paid off in one glorious moment. A moment for everyone attending to watch. She projected all of his conversations on the big screen. Stellan was startled and tried to run away quickly at first, but Daddy Dearest was in on the plot as well and held Stellan down. "You are not going anywhere. You stay put and watch what you did to my daughter," he told them. Melanie was happy that her father and all of her loyal friends were there to help. The big screen showed every lie, every cheating message and picture, and all the invited people could watch how this drama got started. Stellan burst into tears and begged Melanie to stop, but Melanie was not done. She told in front of everyone that he did not deserve her and that she never wanted to see him again. She could have cut this off much earlier, but explained that he did not deserve that respect. Melanie's ex, Stellan, lacked loyalty and commitment, leading to her father's eventual disapproval and Stellan's swift departure from the wedding. Melanie encountered him just once more during his belongings retrieval. Her father, expressing pride, reassured her about finding the right partner. Soon after, Melanie met John, a compassionate man with a British accent who worked at a dog shelter. Their connection was instant, leading to a promising relationship built on mutual understanding and affection. John's sincerity and attentiveness helped Melanie move on from her past ordeal, reminding her that she deserved authentic love.